Hey, this is Bill from Wealth Well Done, and last weekend I was asked to give a presentation on my experience becoming a successful salesperson and how I use sales to build different businesses. And the presentation went so well I thought, hey, let's throw it on this blog because this blog is all about how for you to find happiness, and I've used sales to kind of build companies that I enjoy working at every day, and it's been one of my greatest secret weapons to happiness. So I want to share all the information I have to you. In my personal life, I started my first business, which is a screen printing embroidery company, which I'm wearing a t-shirt right now, and I sell the stuff to corporate accounts. But that's just the vehicle I used. You can use this information if you're a insurance agent or you're a financial advisor or you built some cool business in your basement and you have this cool product. It's not a business that's profitable until you can go out, take that product and sell it. So this is my personal story about how I made sales out of nothing and started my own businesses. So the first couple things you need to know about me so that I'm successful and not just coming up with junk here is I've been selling for 5 years in my first company. My business has sold over $1 million in sales over the last 5 years. And I've had a lot of fun doing it. Why quit a job? My resume is not out there because I'm not looking for something else. My happiness is from the life that I've built. So before we go into how I did it, let's talk about the why. Because sales can be a lot of fun and it make it sound really cool, like everybody can do it, but there's a lot of hard parts in there. And it was my why that carried me through those hard parts of starting my first business. So 5 years ago, I wanted a couple things out of life. I wanted the freedom and the ability to work from home. I'm happiest at home, so why not have a chance to work there? I wanted the ability to sell a product that people continue to use. I've sold roofs before, but the problem with roofs are you sell one roof and nobody's going to call you back for 30 years. So I wanted a residual product where, I could build relationships with buyers and, the products might change, but the relationship is still there. So I was looking for a relationship-based sales business because that's what I'm best at. And then, finally I wanted a chance to sell to businesses which have bigger budgets than trying to sell to somebody who has smaller budgets. When you're selling a t-shirt to an individual, their budget for clothing might be $50, where a business might have a $5,000 or a $50,000 budget. I knew it would be a lot more fun to sell there. So that was my why, the ability to work from home, and that's what drove me through the hard parts of sales. So before I get to the hard parts that I had to fight through, I'm just going to start with how easy starting a business based on sales can be. So my very first sale, I was just started. I had my, probably a business card printed up on my computer. That was the extent of my business. And I called a friend who owned a business and I said, hey, I'm thinking about getting in, starting a business, selling this type of stuff. Would your business need it? And actually on the other end, he said, yeah, actually I need, so-and-so things. And he says, if you can find this, I'd love to buy from you because my business needs them anyways. So I went back and I figured it out and pitched it to him. I didn't even have to sell it. And he says, yeah, totally. I'll take 200 of those. And I think it was a $700 sale. And bam, I was in business with my very first sale. And it was simple as picking up the phone and not being afraid to call a friend and just say, hey, I'm in this business. Is there an opportunity to buy? And so that was the first one. But now if you're going to be successful at business or sales, you have to be able to break out beyond your comfort zone, which are your friends that you already know. And so the way I did that was kind of how financial advisors and insurance agents start their business, and I developed a system. I would make 10 new contacts a day in the morning, and then I would follow up with 10 contacts that I made previously from the morning calls in the afternoon. And I did that the old-fashioned way. I literally got in my car, drove to business parks, drove to businesses, walked in, said, hey, I'm thinking about starting a business, or this is my business and I would love a chance to work with you. And I'd get the business card and then I'd follow them up. You do the math, that's 50 new contacts a week, and I followed up with 50, 10 a day in the afternoon. And I did that for a couple weeks and, it was semi-successful, and then I learned something that helped me take my system to the next level. I said, going to these places is good, but when I went to my first networking event, there was 10 to 100 people in the room. And I could get my 10 contacts a day done within half hour or an hour. I just walk up to people and kind of had a system in my head where I'd say, hey, this is my business. This is what I do. What do you do? Start the conversation. And then I'd say, does your business buy this stuff? And if they said no, well, then I just kind of move on politely to the next person. But if they said yes, then I'd follow up with my next question. And that was, how big is your company? Because I knew, a company with like 1 employee or 2 employees, the budget isn't really there for me to make a living on. But if they said, oh yeah, I work for a company with 20, 100, 500 employees, well, those are some big orders, and I can actually start making a living from my business. So when they said that, then my next final thing was, oh great, like who in your company makes those decisions? And they usually tell me the name because they were in sales and they're nice people and are trying to help another salesperson. And then the next day they become one of the names that I'd follow up in the afternoon. And for 6 months, that's exactly what I did. 10 new contacts a day in the morning, 10 in the afternoon. In my first 6 months, I'd only sold $10,000. Now you might be thinking like, man, you sold $10,000 worth of business, which I was thrilled about too, but it wasn't enough to live on. The profit on $10,000 is way less than that, and over 6 months. But I was like, you know what, I'll stick with it for a little bit longer. And I kept up with the system, and the next thing I know, I sold $180,000 in the next 6 months. And that's when I was like, oh, I can start living off this. So how did I find these networking events? Literally, I did 2 things. I live in a relatively big city, so I joined a chamber of commerce and got on their ambassador panel, and there was events always going on there. And then I just used ingenuity, and I Googled free networking events in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and a list would come up, and a lot of them were interesting events, but they weren't really business people there. But some of them were like, would have a lot of cool businesses there. And I got to learn and meet people. And that's something I'm good at and I genuinely like to do. And so I was building my business based off something I already like to do. And I get these names, and that's how I got the leads going. And then what I do is I'd call up and just say, I try to be nice. Like, I'm not a salesperson that is trying to push somebody into a decision that they're gonna regret making. I'm in a relationship sales business, so I always wanted that person, when they left work with me, said, wow, that was easy. I told him what he wanted, and he got me exactly that within the budget that he gave me. And so that was kind of my sales system. So when I got on the phone, I just said, hey, my name's Bill. This is my business. Is there a chance to work with you? And they'd either say yes or no. And, a lot of times say, sure. And all I would do is I'd say, hey, can I just stop by, drop off a flyer, get to know you in person? And, I was always looking for that one person that said, yeah, come on by. I'd love to meet you. And if they said, well, I'm already working with somebody that I've worked with for 10 years and, I've met his wife and I go golfing with him, I'm probably not going to get that account because that relationship is there. But that's okay. I wasn't looking for the 90% of people that said no. I was looking for that 10%. And in business, no matter what business you're going to start or what you're trying to sell, you're always looking for that 10% of people that are going to say, yeah, I'd love to meet you and give you a shot. And those are the people that can help you succeed in what you're trying to do in life, no matter who you are. So in a final meeting, I'd come in, and my goal always was never to be an ordinary salesperson. My goal when I walked in is, how do I help this person succeed what they're trying to do? And typical people I'm meeting with are in the marketing team, and they have bosses. So I always thought, not what can I get out of this meeting, but what can I give them that will make their jobs easier, make them look better in front of their boss, and make them look better in front of their clients, because they're doing the same thing that I am. They're selling their products and services. Because I always knew, if I can do a great job for them and make them feel like they got value out of working with me, well then, you know what? The next time a project comes up, they're going to give me a call back. And that is the holy grail of sales, is not just getting the first one, but how can you do so good and care so much about your client that they just want to keep calling you over and over and over. And that's, I think, how great businesses are built. So that's how I went into it. That's a system I use, and like I said, I began it by 10 calls a day in person, and then I realized meetings were better, and then I eventually realized meet the people and then try to get the name inside of the company that's buying it. And then I have a direct call in from them. So those are the hard things because, you have a lot of rejection in all those meetings and all those phone calls. But sales can turn out just like that first time I called my friend and, said, hey, can you use me? And I got my first sale for $700. One of my biggest first sales, I literally went to a networking event and met a guy that was cool. We kind of hit it off as, we could be friends, and he invited me into his company, and I remember going and meeting him, and he called me up and said, hey, I need to place a $30,000 order. And that was just because I went out and tried. You know what? Sales is so much like fishing. Like some days you get skunked and there's nothing to catch, and it's not your fault. It's just the environment. And then you keep going out though because you have that dream of the trophy one. One time I met a receptionist and she said, oh yeah, call so-and-so. And I went, and 5 years later, I'm still working with that client. And I still have the same attitude. When I go into a meeting, it's not about what I can get out of them. It's about what I can give them. And, referrals started happening. So that's basically all I had to do. That's what sums up what I love about helping people, selling things, and starting businesses around those things. That's the vehicle I took, and hopefully you can take one or two things that I said in there and say, hey, I can apply that to my vision. I can take his system and use it to what I'm trying to accomplish in life. Because that's ultimately wealth in life, is taking your vision, your dream, and figuring out a system to execute it so that it turns in from a dream inside your own head that you're the only one who sees it into the reality that you live in. Feel free, if you're out there, call me if you need any help with your t-shirts or whatever, because I'd love to help you.